G'day and welcome back to RC Model Reviews. I was buying some stuff from Surveilzone the other day and I spied this. It's the DAL180 or DL180 as it says on here, because I can read Chinese, don't know what that means. And it's a micro, well, they're not really mini quads anymore, are they? 180 size micro quad. Woo, look how small that is. So, yep. And this is the instruction, so you actually get a printed instruction set. And believe it or not, this has a wheelbase of 180 millimeters, but I couldn't find where the wheels go, so don't know what we'll do there. Anyway, so it is just one of the latest crop of these mini quads, the very small ones. And people have been asking, believe it or not, people have been asking me, when are you going to review a 180 sized mini quad? So, well, here you go. I know the fixed wing flyers are going, what? You just got your wings back and you're going to review another mini quad? Well, yeah, I'm going to do this one. It's the 180 sized DALRC mini quad from Surveilzone, which I bought with my own pocket money. So here you go. What do you get? Well, obviously, there's the frame. I mean, these are so damn simple. There are so few parts to these things that building them should be a breeze. So there you go. That's the carbon frame, 3K carbon twill. It's a satin finish, not a gloss. Though it looks a little bit glossy there, but it is a satin finish. You get a top plate, you get a camera plate, and a mobius plate. And that's it as far as the carbon bits goes. The arms are all one piece with the body, so yeah, a much smaller component count. Now, there's really not a lot to put in these. You've got to put all the same stuff in, so you're going to need ESCs and things. And the other accessories you get include the little bobbins. And look, I think it only has 3 bobbins, so they give you a spare one. Woo, a spare one. At last, the manufacturer's come up and given you a spare part for your mini quad. That's great. It has these things on the end, which are interesting. They go on the arms, and it's sort of like a motor protection and feet. So I guess, yeah, there you go. Goes like that, which is actually not a bad idea, because, you know, the other ZMR 250s that have a horrible, crappy carbon legs, which you don't even use. But this will give you just a little bit of ground clearance, and this should protect your motors, and it will take up to a 2204 or 20, optimistically actually, looking at this brochure here, it says very motor size, 1806, 2204 or 2206. Now, who is going to put a 2206 on something this small? Well, for a start, you're wasting the power, because the extra power in a 2206 comes from extra torque. And because we're talking about 4-inch propellers, the extra torque's going to do nothing. It's really not going to give you much. You'll flatten your batteries, double quick time, and you won't really get much performance. At least that's what I'm figuring. You want a high kV motor in these things, the highest possible. And there's not that many really high kV 2206 motors out there. I could put the Sunny Sky 2207s on there, but no, I have them for another project. So there you go. That's the little motor mounts and bits on the end of the arm. You get 4 of those, of course, because it's not a tricopter or a hexacopter. And it has something else too, kind of cool. This is the camera mount. So instead of, well, as I said on the instructions here, this piece here hooks onto, hang on, I don't have the other, oh yes I do. Oh, I nearly thought they'd left a bit out, but they didn't upset me. There you go. So this bit here can go onto there, and then that bolts to the upper plate, as you can see in here, so, and it enables you to tilt your camera. Woo. If you've got a board camera, you can tilt the board camera. Lovely, simple, effective method of providing camera tilt. I like that a lot. That's going to be very interesting. Now, of course, you get screws, and look at this. I love it. They put Loctite on them in advance, so you don't have to put Loctite on. Pre-Loctited screws. Wonderful. Standoffs, I'm not really that fussed on these turn-down standoffs. The ones that are thicker at one end and then turn down in the middle. I've bent so many of those. Couldn't they just give us straight ones, straight strong ones, instead of these ones? But mind you, being smaller, the moment of force, which means basically the leverage, when you hit the ground is much lower on these, so these probably more than adequate. Who knows? We've got some other screws. That's for the camera mount, I think. And then there's a couple of rubber grommets, which I have no idea what they're for. I suspect it's for the battery lead to come through the carbon, because you don't want to wear it away. And yeah, as I say, there's the camera plate, there's the mobius plate. That's it. That's what you get for your money. It's not a lot of money, but you don't get a lot. So hey, what I'll do now is I'll put it together, and I will see if this little DA or DL180 actually flies as well as people tell me these mini quads really fly. And I've got some other mini quad reviews coming up. I've got the, what is it, the from Quadrasteria. Ron from Quadrasteria sending me one of his little mini quads. I think it's a 200. So here's the build so far. We've got the basic frame. I've used the Hobby King or Turnigy Multi-Star Elite 2204 motors. These are the original 2204s I bought. Didn't seem to perform that well, but I'm going to stick them on here, try them out. I mean, it's only a 180. What could possibly go wrong? Now, we've got plastic mounting studs here for the PDB and the flight controller. Now, they don't provide these. That's a bit of a bummer in my estimation, because, you know, when you put one of these together, you really want all the hardware provided, because if you don't have any of these, you've got to go and get some, and it could take weeks if you're ordering them over the internet. Now, What I've got here, which will go on this, I'll turn around the right way so you can see, I've got the Volo miniPDB. I've reviewed the bigger PDB. This is the mini one. Very nice, very useful. Makes this build so much easier because this will simply go on the top here, as you can see. And I'm using the BLHeli. These are the RCTimer 20 amp, like the DYS, 20 amp ESCs. I've had a lot of luck with those. Other people haven't had so much, but I haven't had a single problem with those. And we've got the little standoffs here, which will hold the PDB in place, like so. So you can see the power lead comes through a grommet, okay? And you don't get the power lead, you've got to get your own power lead there. Yeah. The grommet's quite nice because it means once it's all together, this is not going to get dangling into the props, which is great. Here's the camera mount. Now this is really interesting, and it's a good idea because you've got this, you can tilt the camera. See that? Board camera. Beautiful. Only problem was that the hole in this bracket was too big for the barrel of the camera. So they give you a little screw you can screw in here, but even with that it was all sloppy. It wouldn't slide out, but it was wobbling around. So I just put some heat shrink over the barrel to give it enough grip, and that seems to have worked fine. One thing that is quite clever is, notice it's connected to the mobius platform, so in theory the video camera will be vibration damped as well. The downside, if your mobius rips off, it's going to try and rip your board camera out. I don't know what it's going to do in the case of a crash. I'll have to put some zip ties through these, I think, to stop it from parting company under heavy impacts. Now, I do have somewhere a flight controller, which I'll be reflashing. And as you can see, well, the way I've built this, I'm going to use a D4R2 receiver. This is my go-to receiver for miniquads in CPPM mode. It will actually slide under the PDB. There's enough room, believe it or not. See, that fits under there. So it'll actually go lengthways. So I'm going to have a stack. There'll be my D4R2 underneath the power distribution board. Then there'll be the PDB, and then there'll be the NAS board on top. So everything really fits in that little tiny portion of the center of the craft. That's brilliant because it's going to leave me plenty of room for my video transmitter. And I'm using this one, which I also got, junk on the bench here. I also got this video transmitter from Surveilzone, and it is a 250 milliwatt, and it has a little button. It's got a 7-segment display to tell you the channel and the band, and a little button, probably hear that, to step through the channels. Now some people like the little buttons, some people don't. It's a very simple connection. It's got a JST for the power, and it's got a 3-wire connector for the camera. It'll run on 2 cells to 6 cells, but there's no regulator for your camera. So if you're using a board camera, like I'm using here, the PZ0240 or whatever it is, where is it? Oh, I've lost it, here it is. If you're using one of these board cameras, they only work on 12 volts, this particular one. So what I've done to get around that is I've got the little voltage regulator for this, which will handle anything from a 3-cell pack to a 4-cell pack, and that's a boost buck regulator. Doing a separate video on that. I may have already posted it, I don't know. Depends when I post this video. So the boost buck regulator will make sure that it's always 12 volts going to the camera regardless of how many cells I'm using on the miniquad itself. Also, because this doesn't have BECs in the ESCs, these are what they call opto BS ESCs, but opto doesn't actually mean they have an optocoupler, it just means there's no voltage coming out of them. See, there's only 2 wires come to the servo plugs there. They can't feed power back into your flight controller, so you need a separate source of power for your flight controller. And what I've done there is I've got another regulator, which is a switching mode regulator, this one here, which I'm going to do another video on as well, that just drops the voltage down to 5 volts to drive our flight controller and our receiver. So a lot of work to be done there. I'll be getting that done fairly shortly. Now, I've done a separate video, as I say, on the 2 regulators. That's this one here. It's about $3 or $4, cheap as beans. And also this one, which is the Pololu, and that produces 12 volts from anything from 4 or 5 volts right up to 20 volts. So it's a brilliant little piece of kit, and I'll show you how that works in another video. So there you go. I'll just carry on now, get the rest of this together. So here it is, the DL180 from DAL, DAL, which I purchased from Surveilzone for the princely sum of $35 US of my own hard-earned pocket money. It's all set up. I've got the NAS 32 flight controller on there, which I've reflashed to the Boris.B Betaflight software, which everyone tells me is just the bee's knees now. And because I did that, I had to reflash the 20 amp RCTimer ESCs to BLHeli 14.2 because the new Betaflight software doesn't play that well with the older versions of BLHeli. So I've done that. If people want to see, I mean, there are videos on YouTube showing you how to reflash these things and how to set stuff up. If you want to see me do it, then let me know, because I will go through that process. And the easiest way I found was to buy this little USB linker here. It's the DYS USB linker. That worked a treat. Absolutely simple as to reflash stuff. So yeah, if you want to, I'll do a review on this. At the same time, I'll show you how to reflash your ESCs. Now, the beauty of the Betaflight software on the NAS is you can now reflash your ESCs through the flight controller as well. Ooh, it's getting so simple. It couldn't be easier. So there you go. As I mentioned before, only a few downsides I found to this whole thing. One of them being lack of hardware, no spaces for, no PDB, none of this white stuff, no PDB in there, no power cable for your battery. The flight camera setup, but it's a great idea, but I had to put heat shrink over the camera barrel before it would fit down tight. And also, although we have the ability to angle the flight camera, there's no ability to angle the mobius mount. So, you know, why couldn't they have just made the whole thing angle? It would be brilliant then. Also, I noticed that this mobius platform sits quite low, so getting these screws in here and undoing them and doing them up is a real pain in the ass. So if I'm going to take the top plate off again, I'll undo the bottom screws, leave the pillars on the top here just to make that whole process much simpler. I've got DAL 4x45 props. These seem to be pretty much the standard. And I'm going to run 3 and 4 cell packs. Now, I did have the little Pololu boost buck regulator in here, but honestly, it created so much noise that I took it out. So I'm only running 3 cell at the moment. I'm going to have a closer look at that Pololu later on and see whether I can cut the noise down on it. I've tried some simple filtering with a 470 microfarad capacitor. Didn't do a thing. It's still crap. So let's see if we can sort that out, because it really would be nice with the standard 12-volt board camera to be able to switch between 3 cell and 4 cell packs. Using the standard antenna that came with the little tiny FPV, 250 milliwatt FPV transmitter, that looks quite nice actually. For the money, I'm starting to think that's a brilliant little bit of kit, but we'll try it out, see how it works in the field. One thing you probably all want to know is how much does this baby weigh? So let's get the scales out here, the lovely scales that a viewer sent to me, and I've been ever so happy about that for a long time. Here we go. Ready, steady, Freddy, it is 303 grams. So it actually isn't that much lighter than, for example, the Zimar 250. But that is pretty reasonable because it's got all the same gear on it. It's just that this has got a little bit less carbon. So this should be faster, I would think, because there's less drag. But we'll find out when I do the test flight. That'll be coming up soon. I will give you a little break in the meantime from Miniquads. It's blowing a gale out there today. I don't have an observer, so I'll be doing the test flight in a day or two's time. Put it up then. In the meantime, if you've got any questions, if you've got any comments about this little Miniquad from DAL, then feel free to ask them, and I'll do my best to answer them. In the meantime, it's late in the evening. I'm going to go home and have something to eat. Bye for now.